तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद् स्वामी नामने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर यो। Hare Krishna. Thank you. So thank you for accommodating the time. So for a few weeks, we'll start 15 minutes late. It's because I'm attending another course which just kind of finishes around there. Actually, I had to still jump off from there. It wasn't quite over, but never mind. I don't think we can push more, otherwise it will get too late for all of you, especially those who are in KL. So we want to continue our journey on the 16th chapter. If I remember correctly, we discussed up to verses, up the first three verses, if I'm not wrong. Did we discuss verse 4?
The first three verses, the divine quality.
Only divine, right? Yes, that's what I remembered as well. Okay, good. So again, a very quick recap. Anybody remembers how many divine qualities Krishna mentions in the first three verses? Count.
26.
Haribo. Anybody disagrees? So I hope while we went through that list, of course there are so many, let me just quickly read through the list of 26, okay, as a refresher. Fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, dana, self-control, damaha, performance of sacrifice, yajna, swadhyaya, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. Krishna says these transcendental qualities belong to godly men endowed with a divine nature. So we also discussed this, and we've been discussing this again and again across the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavad, that advancement in spiritual life is ultimately measured based on the manifestation of divine qualities. Yes, in one sense it is devotion, but devotion sometimes can be sentimental rather than truly spiritual. So this is a better gauge whether one is making actually tangible spiritual advancement. Because advancement in spiritual life is about transformation of character. It is a transition from a demoniac mentality into a divine mentality. From being an asura to being a sura. Most of us do not like to think of ourselves as asura. Because as soon as we see asura, say, oh, these are the bad people. And nobody likes to think of themselves as a bad person. We all like to think of ourselves as, oh, very great, nice people. But the reality often is not quite fully that we are as saintly as we may like ourselves to. That's the reality. And the reality often is that we are a mixture of both divine and demoniac natures. There's a very interesting saying that, a very interesting thought which was shared by, I've heard it in classes from senior devotees. I do not know what exactly is the source of this particular analysis, but it's an interesting point nonetheless. I want to just quickly mention. I mentioned this earlier in some other classes. That it is said in Satya Yuga, the Asuras and the Suras were on different planets. But when it came to Treta Yuga, they came on the same planet. So Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu were elsewhere. But when it came to Treta Yuga, when it came to Ravana, Ravana and Ram were in the same planet. When it came to Dwapara, Shishupal and Krishna were actually in the same family, same house practically. In Dwapara, the divine and the demoniac people. So they're getting closer and closer and closer. And in Kali Yuga, it is said the divine and the demoniac are not just in the same family, but they're within the same person. Which means practically within each of us, there is a divine aspect and there is a demoniac aspect. Of course, the nature of Kali Yuga is for most of the population on earth today, the demoniac far outweighs the divine qualities. There's only a very small percentage of the population, probably less than 0.1, where their divine aspect is so prominent that they can be called divine. Of course, I do not have any statistical basis to say it is 0.1, but it's very small. It's probably much smaller than that. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidhirati siddhe. At the end of Dwapar, Krishna is saying out of thousands and thousands of people, hardly one is interested in knowing the truth. And one of the divine qualities Krishna himself mentions in the first 3 verses, cultivation of spiritual knowledge. That means one is interested in the truth. So if one doesn't have that, then how is he a Sura? How is he divine? And how many people in Kali Yuga are interested? At the end of Dwapara, one person amongst thousands was interested. In Kali Yuga, one person amongst probably 100,000 or 1,000,000 is interested, isn't it? So within us, both this divine and demoniac natures exist, and they are at constant conflict. At every moment of our life, these natures are fighting each other. There's a very nice example. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj gives an example based on how certain natives, I believe it's from some Eskimos, how they explain this situation, or was it the American Indians? I don't quite remember, but he gives this example where in those natives they say that within each of us there is a bad dog and a good dog, or sometimes they say wolf. There is a bad wolf and there is a good wolf. They're both fighting with each other. The bad is trying to crush the good, and the good sometimes is trying to crush the bad. So in this continuous fight which is going on inside us, the demon wolf and the good wolf, they're continuously fighting. And how do we know which out of these two dogs or wolves is going to win the fight? That is the big question. And what is the answer? Anybody remembers? I'm sure many of you have heard this example. Anybody recollects what was the answer? Who wins out of these two? What determines who wins out of these two? So Radhanath Maharaj said that the dog that we feed the most is the dog who will win. Because only a dog which is strong, and the dog which is strong is the dog whom we have fed. Dog whom we don't feed will become weak and he cannot fight. So the dog which we feed is the dog who is going to win. Which means if we feed our divine natures, the divine dog becomes strong. And if we feed our demoniac nature, the demoniac dog becomes strong. So the formula of becoming divine is that while both of these dogs exist in all of us, and we'll be discussing about the demoniac dog, the demoniac quality shortly. Once we recognize which one is demoniac and which is one is divine, which is the objective of the first half of the chapter. Because first we have to know, if we think of the demoniac as divine and the divine as useless, then we have a big problem. So first thing is we have to know which is the dog to feed. Because Kali Yuga, most of the population is busy feeding the wrong dog. They say religion is useless, spirituality is useless, money is what is. They just feed. Yena kena prakarena. Whatever way I want to be successful and whatever way I want to be wealthy, whatever way I want to crush my enemies. And Krishna discusses all these thought patterns amongst demoniac people, and we'll be discussing that in a few minutes from now. So first thing is that we have to recognize, and then once we recognize, we have to feed the right dog. And when we feed the right dog, which means if we want the divine dog to win, we want to make spiritual advancement, we feed the divine qualities. And we have to starve the demoniac dog, which means when the demoniac qualities come and make an urge and push us, do like this, behave like this, be greedy, be angry, be envious, attack him, destroy him. Whatever these impulses, demoniac impulses, which come from this barking dog of demoniac qualities, you have to starve him. You have to neglect him. You have to not feed him. Then they'll slowly become weak. And this is one of the secrets of becoming strong in spiritual life. Give attention and feed those qualities, behaviors, habits which support our advancement, and neglect, starve. Don't bother about those which don't serve you well. Automatically they will become weak and eventually those negative patterns will be overwritten with divine positive ones. So that is the broader picture, so that you understand what is it that we are trying to discuss. So this whole chapter is about understanding divine and demoniac, so we can recognize them within us. We can feed the divine and we can neglect and starve the demoniac. So we want to continue our discussion. So first three verses, Krishna explains the divine qualities, and then in one verse, which is verse 4, Krishna actually summarizes in 6 words the demoniac qualities. It's very interesting. Okay, 26 verses 6, which means these 6 are enough to destroy. You don't need 26 to destroy. The 6 is all that you need. So let's see what Krishna says. Dambho darpo abhimanascha krodha parushyameva cha adnyanam chabhijatasya partha sampadamasurim. O Partha, O Arjuna, now hear from me what are the sampadam of the Asuri. What are the qualities in the Asuric people? They are 6 prominent ones, the main ones. Dambha, pride. What is the meaning of pride here? Pride here means, or Dambha specifically, of course, Dambha and pride is not exactly a one-to-one match. Dambha has a very specific connotation. Unfortunately, English doesn't have the exact equivalent words for many of the finer expressions in Sanskrit of various qualities, sentiments, etc. So here, Dambha, the Acharyas explain, is where we want to make a show of religion, even if we are sinful. What does this mean? This means we are actually sinful, but we want to show ourselves as very religious. And this tendency is there even amongst practicing devotees. Is it not? Sometimes we have so many shortcomings, but we want to pose ourselves as, oh, I am very saintly. So wonderful. Right? And we discussed this last time also when this question was asked by Suraj about preaching. And we said that how we have to actually be honest. It's okay to preach. But if you are not there, don't try to act you are there when you are preaching. So yes, it should be like this. I say, no. It should all be like this. No, I'm also trying. You also try. Let us all be like this. That is okay. There's no problem in sharing what is right, but it should not be done in an instructive way unless you have already at a position where you can actually instruct others. Sharing is always welcome. So this tendency of the Dambha is where we want to make a show of ourselves as religious, even when we are not. We may actually be sinful, but we want to hide our sinful life. We often see this in politicians. Nowadays, in India, there is election season. So suddenly many politicians whose only religion is money and power, suddenly become Ram Bhakta, Shiva Bhakta, suddenly become Brahmins. And they become such big Brahmins that instead of wearing the thread inside their kurta, they wear it outside because they want to show everybody, see, I'm Janivdhari Brahman. So all this kind of show, this is a demoniac quality. You're not even there. You have no Brahmanical quality or tendency or nature, but you're trying to show yourself something which you are not. So that is Dambha. Then there is Darpa or arrogance. Arrogance or Darpa here is referring to pride in one's wealth and education. So basically think, oh, I am so important. Typically because of wealth or education, I am so big, I am so learned, I am so smart. That is Darpa. And Abhiman. Abhiman is very close to Darpa and is probably closely related, but Abhiman means the expectation of being respected and worshipped by others. One is to be proud and the other is, why you're not honoring me? Why you're not respecting me? I am actually such an important person. Of course, often both of them go together, Darpa and Abhimana, but they have a distinct characteristic. Then Krodha is anger. Of course, everybody has anger to some extent, but anger, especially when it becomes manifest over trifles, small things. One is very irritated, one becomes very angry on small things. Then that is not considered a very it is considered a demoniac quality. Parushyam. Parushyam is harshness, especially use of harsh language in front of others. This is also a very common tendency, especially in Kali Yuga. We all are guilty of this. I often realize I am also guilty of sometimes using harsh language with each other. And oftentimes with those who are close to us, sometimes we take the liberty of being harsh. So that is not a very, one must be very measured in the words that one uses. Words must be, remember the filter we discussed on Sunday. Anybody remembers the 3 filters about how do we decide whether we should speak something or we should not speak something?
Is it necessary?
Very good.
Is it kind?
Mm-hmm.
One more thing
is it right?
Is it right? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So it is not, first of all, is it necessary for you to say that? Is it actually adding any value? Sometimes we just want to pour our frustration, push the other person down, pinch them. That is not necessary, right? Second is what we are saying, is it actually correct? Is it based on facts? Or is it again just our envy, hatred, anger pouring out? Is it right? And third is it kind? You may be right. Is it kind? Because certain things, even if they are right, if they are not put in the right manner, they don't produce the right result. So we are interested in the right result. We are not just interested in speaking truth. Yes, correct. For example, if you go and visit a friend who unfortunately happens to be in a hospital battling with stage 4 cancer, and the doctor must have already indicated you have only 2 more days to live. You don't go and say, oh, I must tell him the truth. And say, oh, my dear friend, only 2 days. I have to tell you the truth. So, we have to know in what situation, how we present the message and how we deal with it in a way that is best for that particular individual. Anyway, so that's about Parusham. That's a very big topic. But again, the characteristic of demoniac nature is harshness. Adnyanam is ignorance. Now, ignorance is a very important aspect of those who are demoniac. Ignorance of what? Ignorance means basically lack of discrimination, not understanding what is the right thing to do, behaving whimsically. And Krishna elaborates this point to a significant extent in the next few verses, and we'll discuss it more there. Krishna says these are the qualities which are manifested by the ignorance. Prabhupada says that these 6 qualities represent the royal road to hell. So it's a 6-lane highway. Any one of the lanes you are situated, you can reach the same destination of hell. What if we have all 6? Then we are in a super fast lane. Dambha, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, ignorance. Yes. And when I read all these 6, I feel, oh, I cannot say that I have overcome any of them. To different degrees, all of these are present. And that is the truth for most of us, isn't it? If you are very honest, to different degrees. We are not saying that everybody is necessarily harsh. Some of you are so gentle. I feel sometimes I am harsh. Or sometimes there may not be so much of dambha, but there may be some darpa. Which means one may not be pretentious, but one may still be thinking of oneself as high, so learned. And this darpa can come even in a spiritual context. One can think, oh, I know the Gita, I know the Bhagavatam, I'm so learned, I'm so much better than others. That is also darpa. It's not that all of these things are manifest necessarily in a material context. Roma Harshana, Rishi, he was assigned by Vyasadeva to be the Rishi in charge of all the Puranas. He knew all the Puranas thoroughly. He was the Acharya in charge of the Puranas. He was once sitting in an assembly, sitting on the Vyasasan, giving a class on the Puranas. And he was teaching all his students. It's a very classic example. So that we understand in a devotional setting also how these things can happen. Demoniac tendencies can very much be there in a spiritual setting also. Lord Balaram came and walked into the assembly. And all those who are conversant with the Vedic teachings, they know that Lord Balaram is Adi Guru. Even though he's a Kshatriya at an external level, he's Adi Guru, he's the first expansion of Krishna. He's the Guru of all Gurus. So when Balaram came, all the sages stood up in respect to honor him because they understood his position. Roma Harshan sage was so proud of his position and learning that he continued to sit on the Vyasasan as if he is greater than even Lord Balaram. And seeing this kind of darpa, Balaram said, no. Vidya vinayena shobhate. A person who is truly learned must show or does always show humility, because the consequence of proper learning, not just theoretical knowledge, but proper understanding, is actually culminates in humility. But here is darpa, it is so much pride of knowledge, pride of position, that he is even offending the Adi Guru. So Balramji took a blade of grass and threw it at him. And with the blade of grass, Romaharshan was killed instantly by Lord Balaram because of his offensive mentality. Very interesting part. I mean, Lord Balaram punished him so severely. And all the sages were shocked. I mean, they didn't expect Lord Balaram would, show such a strong reaction. But Lord Balaram felt that the leader who is teaching all the other sages, if he is not showing the perfect example of divine qualities, then how can he be on that position? He doesn't deserve. So Lord Balaram set that example by killing him. And then everybody will say, oh, now what to do? Why you have killed him? You shouldn't have killed this, that. And there was a lot of hoo-ha. So Balaram said, okay, I'll settle the problem. So his son, who was known as Roma Harshana Suta, was made the next Acharya in charge of all the Puranas. And Balaram blessed him that you will have a long life and you will be very famous. So instead of the father, the son was placed on the asana and the matter was settled. Anybody knows who this Roma Harshana Suta is? The context of what we have been discussing in the Bhagavatam.
Shukadev Goswami?
No, Shukadev Goswami is the son of Vyasa.
Shaunaka.
Shaunaka is the leader of the sages of
Sages.
Naimisharanya, not Shaunaka. Roma Harshana Suta is Suta Goswami. Is Suta Goswami who heard the Bhagavatam being discussed between Shukadev and Parikshit Maharaj. This is the person. He was the son of this Roma Harshana sage. And his father was killed and he was very humble. Roma Harshana Suta. And he became famous as Suta Goswami. He was Romaharshan Suta, but he was known as Romaharshan Suta, but in short, everybody would call him as Suta Goswami. And he became very learned because he was learned in all the Puranas. And then later he personally heard the Bhagavad Puran in the presence of Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And then he narrated the Bhagavad, Shaunaka and the other sages. Okay, yeah, remember that is the context, right, of the Bhagavatam. Okay, so anyway, so that was another topic, but I thought it is worth mentioning how even within the context of devotion, these demoniac qualities can creep in, and how Krishna doesn't tolerate the manifestation of demoniac qualities even within not just sadhakas but also advanced candidates in the path of spiritual life. So we have to be so careful. So pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, these qualities belong to those who are of demoniac nature. So Krishna summarizes, he has now described 3 verses, divine qualities, 1 verse, he has summarized demoniac qualities. In verse 5, Krishna says, Daivim sampad vimokshaya dibandhaya surimata mashucha sampadam daivim abhijato si pandava. After having described these 2 qualities, Arjuna may think, Krishna was thinking that Arjuna may think, oh, I am about to fight, I am about to do this war. And he was already thinking that he is doing the wrong thing. Maybe I have demoniac qualities. Is my desire to fight actually a demoniac quality? Is it that I have this dambha, darpa, am I having the paurusham, not paurusham, sorry, parushyam, the harshness, and that is why I'm behaving like this. So Arjuna was thinking like this in his mind. He didn't say that, but Krishna immediately clarified in this verse. And the way Krishna explained is, first Krishna says, Arjuna, understand that the divine qualities are conducive to liberation. So why we want divine qualities? Because divine qualities are aligned with the nature of the soul, aligned with the Lord, and that is why they lead to liberation. Whereas demoniac qualities result in bondage to material existence. And then he comforts Arjuna by saying, Arjuna, don't worry. You are born with divine qualities. So don't worry. Don't try to interpret your fighting in this war to be a manifestation of demoniac qualities. And it is even not even a manifestation of violence. Remember, because Krishna had said non-violence is a divine quality. But remember, we had discussed this in great detail in the last session. Non-violence is not just about not fighting. Ahimsa paramo dharma, dharma himsa tathaiva cha. Just like not hurting others is the greatest good quality. Similarly, using force to protect dharma is also an equally great quality. And in this case, Arjuna was expected to use weapons, Kshatriya spirit, to protect dharma. So Krishna comforts him by saying that for you, not fighting is demoniac. Because that would be ignorance, and ignorance is a demoniac quality. So for you, true non-violence means to use violence to protect dharma is non-violence for you. So that's why it's so important to understand how these principles are applied. It's not just about, applying foolishly certain principles. We see in Indian politics, sometimes so foolishly certain principles are applied, and they have created so much damage to the psyche of India and leading to so much misunderstanding of dharmic principles. So Krishna continues, he says in the 6th verse, and he's summarizing here, Bhuta sargo lokesmin daiva asura evacha daivo vistara shaprokta asuram parthame shrunu. Summarily, Arjuna, there are 2 kinds of created beings in this world. Sarga means creation. Bhuta Sarga, Dvau, two types. Daiva, Asura Evacha. There are the divine, there are the demoniac. I have already explained the divine in detail. 26 qualities I have explained in detail. The demoniac I summarized in very short. 6 roads to hell. Now I want to speak a bit more elaborately. So you understand what is this demoniac mentality. So that you can understand the demoniac mentality in terms of how they think. See what happens sometimes when we mention only these qualities, you think, no, I am not proud. No, I am not conceited. No, I am. No. It's so easy for us to dismiss. So now Krishna wants to expand on this demoniac mentality by explaining their typical thinking patterns. And when you hear some of these typical thinking patterns, many of these patterns may ring a bell in our own mind. Yeah, I think like that. Yeah, or sometimes other demoniac people also think like that. My God, this is worrisome. I thought I'm so humble, but how come this pattern is in my mind? So this is one more deeper layer of understanding. So let us see, the next few verses are focusing on describing the demoniac in a fair deal. Okay, so let's move to the next verse. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasuraha na shaucham napi chacharo na satyam teshu vidyate. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Very interesting. This is the fundamental problem with demoniac people. They don't understand what is to be done and what is not to be done, which means they have no proper understanding of what is right and what is not right. Oftentimes they think that which is right to be not right and that which is not right to be what is important and right. That is their problem. They have a very simple point, right? A very simple point. That oftentimes, and Krishna explains this in the later verses, more elaboration, that based on very superficial bodily conception, demoniac people think, oh, sensual enjoyment is the ultimate goal of life. And austerity and developing good qualities, that is so much troublesome. Why is that good? That is not good. Because inconvenient, it is not good. So they don't know what is of value and what is not of value. They try to value things at a very superficial level, because they do not understand the connection between the long-term well-being and what is being done now. Just some example. Another point in this verse, Krishna says, neither cleanliness, na shaucham, napi chacharo, nor proper behavior, na satyam, nor truth is found in them. They don't have proper behavior. They are not clean, mind, body, words, and they are not truthful. Truthfulness is given so much emphasis in divine qualities. It is very important. One must be honest and truthful. So let's go on. Prabhupada gives quite a lot of points here. You can study the detailed purports on your own. Then Krishna mentions another interesting point. The thinking, the philosophy. What is the philosophy of the demons? What is their mentality, or how you say, what is their worldview? What is their worldview? What is their philosophy about this existence? Correct? For devotees, what is the philosophy about the existence? That there is a Lord, The Lord creates everything. Everything belongs to the Lord. We are his part and parcel and we have to serve him. That is the devotee philosophy. What is the demoniac philosophy? 16.8, Krishna explains. Asatyam apratishtham te jagad ahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimmanyat kama haitukam. They say, they means the demons, they say that the world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Essentially, what they mean is either they think of the world as purely a material combination, which means there is nothing like God, nothing like soul, which is the most common materialism philosophy, which is very common nowadays, especially in Kali Yuga. There is no God. How did we come about? Oh, by a chance combination of matter. And all these bodies are coming on just because of sex desire. There are two bodies coming together, chemicals are coming together, and life is coming about. And that this world is unreal. Actually, there is no ultimate principle existing. There is no real controller. Anishwaram, no controller. There is actually no purpose. There is no goal of life. And that is why the goal of life each one of us must have is enjoy your senses. What can be higher? Because ultimately there is no God. There is nothing higher. They deny that there is spirit. They say everything is matter. And ultimately, according to them, everything is nothing but a mass of chemicals. Of course, the devotee's philosophy is quite different. The devotee's philosophy is that there is the Lord and his energies, and the Lord is the enjoyer of his energies, and the Lord manifests this world. Being his part and parcel, we must serve the Lord. So, having such a philosophy, what happens? How do these demoniac people behave? Krishna explains in the next verse. So, the first verse is their conclusion about the world, their philosophy of the world. And then what is their behavior because of this understanding? And what is the consequence of this understanding? So Krishna says, Etam drishtim avashtabhya nashtat manolpa buddhayah prabhavanti yugra karmanaha shayaya jagato ahitaha. Following such conclusions means that there is no God in control, everything is matter. The demoniac people who are lost to themselves, because for them, when there is no God, nothing, what it matters, the only thing that matters is they and their body. Because they think at the end of the day, this consciousness also I have is only because of a temporary combination of matter. Where is there any morality? There is no basis for morality. As long as I'm not caught, I can do whatever I want. Correct? Yeah. That is why who in Kali Yuga, who is considered a smart thief? A smart thief is he who is never caught. So the highest philosophy, and this is the philosophy of politicians. Who becomes politician? There are two. There are thieves and there are politicians. Politicians are such smart thieves that they are usually never caught. Because they are so smart that they will engage others to do the work for them and they will enjoy the results of the sin, but they will act in such a way that they are not caught. Of course, nowadays they also get caught, but the smart ones are the ones who don't get caught. So such people are lost to themselves, and Krishna says they have no intelligence. And because of this kind of mentality, they engage in unbeneficial, horrible works. meant to destroy the world. Obviously, what will happen if your whole focus is just about your own bodily and mental enjoyment because of this kind of a philosophy? How will you engage in work which is of genuine welfare either to yourself or to the world? So this is what happens. This is the consequence of demoniac philosophy. So when demons lead the world, they harm themselves and they harm the whole world. Because they do not know the formula for happiness. How can you know the formula for happiness when you don't even know who you are? Such materialistic people focus the whole civilization, all science, purely on material pursuits. The more you consume, the more happy you become. So, ऋणं कृत्वा घृतं पिबेत् भस्मीभूतस्य देहस्य किं पुनरागमनं भवेत्. That's the Charvaka philosophy. Charvak philosophy says enjoy at all costs. Beg, borrow or steal. Rinam kritva ghritam pibet. When you eat with nice, the topmost ingredients. Even if you have to borrow money, you borrow and enjoy. And that is the modern materialistic mentality. What do modern thieves do? You know what are the biggest scams nowadays? The biggest scams are you borrow money from big banks by cheating the banks, by working out an arrangement with bribery to the banks, and you enjoy yourself and set up your business by cheating the bank. Basically, you're cheating public money. So the philosophy is you borrow and you enjoy. Why you want to work hard and enjoy? At the end of the day, after you die, what does it matter? Whatever is the loan on your name, what does it matter? Because there's nothing like soul. So how does it? So this is how, if this is the philosophy, this is the thinking, obviously this is the kind of activities that will be there. And how will such kind of activities and mentality be of benefit to the world? That is why they become extremely cruel, extremely selfish, and they bring about destruction of the society. Prabhupada mentions even the invention of nuclear weapons is a manifestation of this kind of mentality. People are so harsh. And now so sad actually what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. And some analysts say that this is, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but some analysts say, oh, this is all that what US is doing because they want the arms business to go up so that they will make profit. The share prices of all the arms company in the US stock exchange is shooting through the roof. And all the key investors in those companies are making billions. At the cost of what? At the cost of untold misery to thousands and thousands, tens and thousands and lakhs of common people whose lives are absolutely devastated. But they don't care because they think, I am making money. Why do I care? All I have to do is take care of my body and my own enjoyment. There's nothing after this life. There's only one life. And that's why I have to enjoy. This kind of mentality has become very common nowadays. There's only one life. It's a very dangerous thinking. When you start thinking there is only one life, then you feel justified. I have to do whatever it takes to be successful, to enjoy. And this kind of mentality is actually very dangerous for the world. Just for everybody, since we started 15 minutes later, I'm just going to go on up to 10:15. I hope that is okay. Is it fine? If somebody is not fine, you can let me know. Otherwise, I intend to go on for another 10 minutes. I just want to complete this section. Actually, this section is quite long. We may not be able to complete this section. This section goes on up to verse 20. Anyway, let's see. We'll cover one or two more verses. We'll take the next verse at least. Let's see. Then Krishna starts explaining the activities of the demoniac people. In general, first he says they engage in in horrible, unbeneficial activities. That's a very a broad statement. Now Krishna goes into more detail of their tendencies and conduct. So let's see what Krishna says. And again, like what I've been mentioning, when these things are mentioned, don't try to look for these in others. Even though I give an example of politicians and this and that, please try to reflect on the presence of these mentalities within our consciousness. Because if we don't recognize them within us, then we will not know that we have to be careful to eliminate them, to starve them, to not feed them. That is the goal. The goal is not to be expert at finding these in others. If we do that, what happens? We become guilty of violating the divine quality of freedom from fault finding. Correct? Then we lose the divine quality of freedom from fault. So we want to be introspective, which is a divine quality. So there's demoniac tendencies we want to self-reflect, not as point our fingers towards others. So verse 10, Kamam ashritya dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante ashuchivrataha. That such people, because they take shelter of unlimited lust, kamam ashritya dushpuram, and because demoniac people, because of this materialistic mentality, for them enjoying senses is the goal of life. So they have unlimited lust. They are very strongly based in Rajoguna. And they are always absorbed in the demoniac qualities that Krishna described earlier. Darpa, Dambha, Abhimana, Dambha, Mana, Madanvitaha. These are essentially the first three qualities. And they are always illusioned as to the reality because of this kind of mentality. And because of such an illusioned consciousness, they are always doing unclean work, always being attracted to the impermanent. Asat grahan, non-permanent things. So demoniacs are always attracted towards the non-permanent things. And the divine are always attracted towards the permanent things. Sadgamaya, tamosoma, jyotirgamaya, asatoma, sadgamaya. The demons are attracted towards asat, temporary, material things. The divine are attracted towards sat, permanent, the soul, the Lord. Because if this is the philosophy, obviously you'll be attracted only towards asat. So they're totally headed in the wrong direction. They don't know who they are. Their consciousness is rooted in the belief that I am this body and giving pleasure to the body is the goal of life. And once you have this wrong foundation, everything else becomes wrong. Correct? And the first step of your mathematical equation is wrong. All the derivatives from that are automatically going to be wrong. And that is why such people, materialistic mentality, they have a suchi vrata. They are basically very lusty. They are attracted by two things, Prabhupada says. They are attracted to sex enjoyment and accumulation of material wealth. See, these materialistic big people, you'll see generally these are the two things that they are after. And that is what they like to flaunt as their success. What do they like to flaunt? See, I have the best girlfriend, the most beautiful girl, who I managed to get this actress, this model to be my girlfriend. They like to flaunt that because that is the measure of success, and the other measure of success is their wealth. So they like to have big, big palaces, big, big, beautiful cars. They like to flaunt it. And they also have unclean actions. What are the unclean actions? Unclean vows, ashuchi vrataha. Prabhupada explains, ashuchi vrata means they are interested in drinking, meat eating, gambling. These are considered unclean activities, low class materialistic. Of course, sometimes induced by pride, they may do a show of religion. The show of religion is done just to increase their prestige. They are not actually interested in religion. They just want to show off. Oh, I also did a big puja. I also give big dan. They are not doing dan to purify themselves or to please the Lord. They are doing just to show off their wealth. So all these mentalities cause such people to glide towards hell, even though they may themselves think of themselves as very advanced. They think they have sorted it out. Actually, they are totally headed in the wrong direction, opposite direction. That's why Prabhupada says they are going full speed towards hell because they are on the highway to hell. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. We have completed first 10 verses. There's a lot of interesting discussions which Krishna continues on the demoniac mentality. He infers from this consciousness and behavior, and he does further analysis about the thinking patterns and what is the attitude of such people, what is their engagement when they actually achieve success and wealth, what is their thinking, what is their destination, how they are hypocritical, what other results do they achieve, and how Krishna deals with such demoniac people. So that is what the rest of the chapter, or at least up to verse 20, Krishna actually deals with. So that we will discuss in the next class. We'll try to complete in the next class up to the verse 20. Okay, thank you very much. I'm opening up the floor if there is any questions, comments.
Hare Krishna, Babuji.
Yes, Sadhuji.
External cleanliness everyone knows, but it is mentioned in this verse that internal cleanliness, as far as concerned, must remember the holy name of the God and chant Mahamantra.
Perfect. Yes, very true.
Okay. So anything else apart from these two related to internal cleanliness?
Yeah. So internal cleanliness is, so that is the process of chanting of the holy name, is the process. So manastrayate iti mantra. So mantra is, man is purified, right? Cheto darpana marjanam. That is the holy name. So cleanliness of the mind or of the consciousness is to clean the mind of the demoniac qualities, ultimately. So all our sadhana chanting is ultimately meant to remove the undesirable things from the heart so that our real divine qualities shine forth nicely. So all our spiritual activities, all our sadhana is cleaning work. Because ultimately in spiritual life, what is it that we are doing? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitre Karayoga. That actually we are already spiritual. It's not that we are trying to be spiritual. It's only our problems. We have forgotten we are soul. We are thinking we are body. So what we have to remove is ignorance. When ignorance is removed, and ignorance results in all these 6 qualities, damba, darpa, ultimately the basis is avidya. The basis is the false identity. So all our various sadhanas, whether it is chanting the holy name, studying of scriptures, offering naivedya, doing archana, serving the devotees, spiritual master, the Vaishnavas. All various aspects of the sadhana are ultimately processes of undoing the contamination which is there in the heart so that our real nature becomes manifest. Of course, in Kali Yuga, especially at this time, the most effective method is the chanting of the holy name. And that's why Prabhupada repeatedly mentions this. In Kali Yuga, that is the Yuga Dharma. So all other limbs of devotion are said to be secondary. Chanting of the holy name is said to be primary. And even while we do the other limbs, the limb of chanting of the holy name must always be connected somehow and must be there present in some form of the other. So yes, that is very true. So when we are internally truly clean, then external cleanliness will also come about. See, sometimes we may say, oh, even some materialistic people are clean externally. But their cleanliness external is not a reflection of their internal cleanliness. Their external cleanliness is a reflection of their material identification. Because if you think you're the body, you just want to keep it very spick and span from that perspective. So it is not the result of a spiritual consciousness. It's just that, oh, I want to look so beautiful. I want to make sure I don't even have one white hair. So I want to make sure I color my hair every. Sorry, ladies, I don't mean offense to anybody if somebody is coloring your hair. Don't think I'm criticizing or offending. But the point is, when one becomes too bodily conscious, it's okay. I also comb my hair, but that doesn't make it demoniac, right? So taking grooming oneself to a reasonable degree to be functional and presentable in this material world, it is okay. That's not considered demoniac quality. But when one overdoes it by making that the real, focus, that this is more important than all other things. Internal cleanliness is not important, but just, my hair, I will spend 2 hours in the salon just to, do my hair, 3 hours dressing up to go to a 2-hour party. So all this is overdoing it, where one has actually lost perspective. So this kind of cleanliness, this kind of presentation is only a reflection of the consciousness that I am the body. So that is not a very good. So the cleanliness of the devotee who's advanced in spiritual consciousness is a simple cleanliness. He is neat and tidy and clean at a bodily level. He's not overdoing it to become hugely materially attractive. Yeah. So that is a little bit of a difference, and the difference in intention as well. Yes, cleanliness is very important. And ultimately, we are in the process of cleaning our heart.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anything else anyone wants to add or ask? Okay, so we will stop here. So next week also we will start the class at 9:15. I hope it's not too difficult. We are also finishing at 10:15, which we anyway finish by 10:15. So I think we're not delaying it much beyond that. Okay, so I'll see you on Saturday evening. We'll continue our discussion on Dhruv Maharaj's pastimes. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Samavita Gaurav.
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare
Thank you,
Bol.
everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Sridhar ji. Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Bol, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Please give me